Welcome, everyone, to the Chicago Football Connection podcast. I am your host, Steve Letizia. You can follow me on Twitter, at Steve Letizia. You can also follow the CFC account, at CFC Bears. I'm doing most of my tweeting from there nowadays. Well, welcome to the next edition of the podcast. I've been doing a lot of NFL draft stuff lately, for good reason, obviously, with the NFL draft. But now that the NFL draft is in the rearview mirror, we can finally start looking forward to next year and kind of what the Bears will be running and personnel and everything like that. So I'm excited to get into this next part of the offseason. So I decided to take a look for my first podcast after the NFL draft, take a look at what the Bears offense will look like next year. And this kind of came from a thought I had last couple weeks ago when Nate Herbig was released by the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of Bears fans wanted the Bears to sign him because, we just need offensive linemen, which I get, and I completely understand that. I mentioned that I didn't think Nate Herbig was a great fit for the Bears' outside zone scheme. I still think that. And there's a lot of confusion from Bears fans about kind of what the outside zone is, what the offense the Bears will be running next year. So I decided to kind of do a deep dive on that, not only because I wanted to, educate Bears fans, but I wanted to educate myself as well. There are a lot of things that I didn't know about the outside zone scheme that Luke Getsy is bringing over from the Packers. So what I did is I bought this book on Amazon, the 2020 Green Bay Packers Complete Offensive Manual by Bobby Peters. I'd highly recommend it. It's a really good read, really quick read too. But it broke down the complete offense of the 2020 Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Luke Getsy, coming from the Packers, is going to be bringing those similar elements to the Bears. So by looking through this book and kind of watching the all 22 of the Packers season in 2022, it gave me in 2020, it gave me a good idea of what Luke Getsy is going to be bringing to Chicago, how it works. Like I said, there was a lot of confusion on if the pulling guards in an outside zone scheme, if that's a thing. So I wanted to do this not only for everyone else, but for myself as well. I'm no expert. There's still a million things I need to learn about football. So this is a great exercise. I really enjoyed doing it. So I hope you guys find it helpful as well. So in looking at I'm going to do two podcasts, I should mention. First one today, I'm just going to be doing the run scheme breakdown. It's going to be over an hour, so I didn't want to make it too long. Next week, I'll do a passing game breakdown as well. So I'll do both sides of the coin there, but we're going to start with the run stats. So the Packers, while I said they are an outside zone scheme, they do run outside zone the most, over 40% of the time. They do run inside zone a lot as well, 36% of the time. So over 75% of the time, they are running zone, some variation of zone, either outside or inside. They also run what we call duo, which is a typical downhill run in the NFL. And it's kind of similar to inside zone, and I'll get into that later. Basically, it just inside zone is the weak side. Duo is a run to the strong side, A-gap. And then they also do run some power. It's less than 5%, but it does happen. So this might be where some of that confusion comes from about pulling guards in an outside zone scheme. In a typical outside zone, there is no pulling guards, but every team, no matter how many outside zone they run some variation of power, and that's where those pulling guards come into play. So on the right here, we have the run type on the yards per play. So you can see they have the outside zone, and they run a lot of different variations of outside zone. The nice thing about outside zone is you can run to the weak side, you can run to the strong side, you can run it from shotgun, you can run it from under center, you can run it from 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 22 personnel, 20 personnel, whatever you want to do. You can run it in a lot of different ways. You can run it with a fullback. So they have a lot of different variations here. They also run inside zone, which is less variations, but they run it a lot more. At least they run each variation more than outside zone. Then they have duo, so they run duo out of 11 personnel, 12 personnel, and they also do what we call duo wrap, which I'll get into what that is later on. And then they do run some power, again, less than 5%, and then they do jet sweeps as well. So with the jet sweeps, on most of these plays that you'll see that I'll be showing, they'll be running some fake jet sweeps. That pre-snap motion is very key to this this scheme, but eventually they have to run the jet sweeps as well. So they do run some jet sweeps. So I'll be going through each one here, kind of breaking them down. I have some examples, and I have a telestrator that I'm going to probably way overuse. But I'm excited to kind of dive deep into these plays, and we'll start with the outside zone scheme. So we're going to look at each different run scheme. So I'm going to start at the top, starting with the outside zone weak. That's the first play in the list. So I have some stats just when the Packers ran outside zone weak. So they averaged 5.3 yards per carry when running outside zone weak. They ran it primarily on first and second down. So first down they called it 23 times, the 5.1 yards per average, yards per attempt. They ran it on second down as well. So second down, less than 7 yards, 11 times for 6.3 yards per carry. Second down, 7+ yards, 13 times for 4.7 yards per carry. They didn't run this at all on third and fourth down. So if they need to just pick up a yard or two, they're going to probably run a power or a duo or inside zone. In the red zone, they didn't run it off in the red zone. They ran it 5 total times, 4 times within the 10 yards, and then 1 time between 20 and 10 yards. 0 touchdowns out of there. So you can see kind of when they used it here. And then you can also, on the right-hand side here, is the what defenses they used it against. So you can see they used it mostly against over and under techniques. So that would be a 4-man. Both of those are 4-man fronts. So if a defense is, again, they ran it mostly on early downs. So if a defense is in their base 4-3, that's when they want to run it against. If a defense is in a 3-4, they might run a different scheme or a different look of outside zone, but not so much the outside zone weak. So I have an example here. I'm going to start a little high level on outside zone, and then I'll break down this play. So with outside zone, so with normal running plays, what the Bears inside zone or power, you get your offensive lineman kind of going downhill, and you just run behind them. So that's what most fans typically think of when you talk about running schemes. With an outside zone, you want to actually the goal is to get your offensive lineman moving horizontally. So that's why when we're talking about NFL draft prospects and specifically offensive linemen, we talk about the lateral movement skills. That's really what you want out of teams that run primarily outside zone. So you want to get them running laterally or horizontally, and then with the running back. So the running back is the running back that gets the ball. His target is either the outside hip of the right tackle or the inside hip of the right tackle, depending on how the defense is lined up and what the different differences in the blocking scheme. But you want to get to the outside zone. That's typically what you want to do. So that's a high level, just quick overview of an outside zone. Let's break down this particular play. So again, this is outside zone weak. With outside zone, you can run it weak or strong in a lot of different formations. But this particular play is outside zone weak. With inside zone, it's always a run to the weak side. But with outside zone weak here, so we could see the defense that the Vikings are in. They're in a nickel. So the Packers have 3 wide receivers on the field, so they have their nickel package in. So that just takes the strong side linebacker off the field and brings in a nickel back. So you can see they're in a pretty typical 4-man front. We have our one technique nose tackle here. We have our 3 technique here. So 1 technique is lining up over the shoulder of the center. 0 technique would be lined up right over the center. 3 technique, which I'm sure you hear a lot, that's lined up on the outside shoulder of the guard. So that's what a 3 technique is. And then for the ends, we have them in a 6 technique. And what 6 technique means is that they're lined up over the tight ends. There's no tight end in this play, but had there been a tight end, they'd be lined up over him. So that's why they're the 6 technique. With the linebackers, we have the Mike linebacker on this side, and we have the Will linebacker here. So you have, again, the strong side linebackers off the field, but you still have your Mike linebacker, and you still have your Will linebacker, or the weak side linebacker. So what the Packers are going to do here before the play is they're going to send this running back in motion out of the play. And what that's going to do is that's going to take this weak side linebacker, and he's going to go cover that guy. So he takes him completely out of the play. He has no chance of making this play now. For the Mike linebacker, what it's going to do is it's going to just move him over just a few steps, just 1 or 2 steps, maybe even half a step. But that's key to making this play work. So the Packers didn't always put motion into their plays. For an outside zone weak play, motion isn't necessary. But I found when I was watching that most of their success came on plays with motion, and that's what we found. That's what I've read, in PFF or any analytics, is that pre-snap motion helps your offense a lot. So hopefully the Packers and Luke Getsy bring a lot of pre-snap motion to the offense next year, because you'll see when I kind of do the diagram how that affects the play. So that pre-snap motion, let's clear this again. Got him pre-snap motion here. Will linebacker out of the play. Mike linebacker is just going to shift over a little bit. So now the offensive line, what they're going to try and do. So we'll focus on the right side of the offensive line, which would be the left side of the screen here. So this right tackle, against an even front like this, a 4-man front, what he's going to try and do is just push this defensive end out of the play. Ideally, if they were in a 3-man front, or ideally you want to get to the outside shoulder of the defensive end and allow the running back to get to the outside, but the way that they're lined up, that's just not possible. So what he's going to do instead, again, is just get to the inside shoulder and just push him out of the play. The right guard, our buddy Lucas Patrick, so obviously a player that the Bears signed this offseason. He's coming, is the most knowledgeable offensive lineman that the Bears have in this scheme. What he's going to do is he's going to just chip down on this defensive tackle and then get up to the second level and block the Mike linebacker. That little chip of the nose tackle there is going to allow the center to get to the outside shoulder of the nose tackle. So you can kind of see how this is already developing. This guy, here's the lane that is going to open up. Because this is the running back that gets the ball. He's going to come around here. Lucas Patrick is going to get to the second level and block that the middle linebacker. And it all stems from that motion that goes on at the start of the play, because that's going to take that linebacker a little bit over to the right and allow Lucas Patrick to get to the outside shoulder of that linebacker and open up that running lane. On the left side, it's the same thing. The left guard is going to get to the inside shoulder of the 3 technique, and the left tackle is going to take this defensive end and work to the second level as well. So we can kind of see what that looks like when the play is run. Again, they're going to send the guy in motion, and watch number 50, watch the linebacker. He just takes a couple steps over, and that's going to allow Lucas Patrick to get to his outside shoulder. The next video is what happens when outside zone does not work. Outside zone weak does not work. So most of the time when it fails, it's heavily reliant on those guards and centers making those reach blocks and getting to the outside shoulder of those 3 techniques and 1 techniques. And that sometimes doesn't happen. Sometimes either the offensive lineman is slow out of their stance, or the defensive tackle just makes a really good play. So here we have an example of when outside zone weak fails. The Packers started out with a bunch formation to the left here. So Robert Tonyan, number 85, is going in motion he's actually going to be in the slot. And now, just like on the last play, the Packers are going to do a pre-snap motion. So number 32, Tyler Evans, is going to go behind the play, look around their outside zone, and as you can see, they get stopped at the line of scrimmage. So let's see kind of what happened, what caused that to get stopped at the line of scrimmage. So the Eagles are in a little different formation than the Vikings were on that last play. So instead of having a nose tackle played as the 1 technique, which would be there, They have him lined up as what is called 2-eye technique. So that's on the inside shoulder of the guard. This defensive tackle is still 3 technique. But this, instead of a 1 technique, is the 2-eye technique. And then the ends are lined up as the same as those 6 techniques. So the backers are going to send their player in motion behind the line of scrimmage. Again, that's going to shift these linebackers over to the right, which in theory would allow this play to work a little bit more successfully. The play is going to go then to the weak side. So again, this Robert Tonyan is going to go in motion here. This linebacker is actually going to cover Robert Tonyan, and then these guys are going to be shifted over by that pre-snap motion. So let's see what they look like after the Robert Tonyan goes split out wide. So you can see the linebacker shifting a little bit, and they're going to shift even more with that pre-snap motion. But what the line is going to do here, so obviously we want to get into that B gap. So David Bakhtiari here is going to block down on the defensive end, his inside shoulder, and drive him out of the play. Our buddy Lucas Patrick here, number 62, we're going to be seeing him a lot today. His job is to get to this outside shoulder of that 3 technique. Now, that's not an easy job. It's very difficult to do, but that's what he needs to do in order for this play to be successful. The center here is going to get to the second level and block these linebackers who are going to shift over with that motion. The right guard is going to get to the inside shoulder of the nose tackle, and the right tackle is going to get to the second level as well. So that's what they're going to try and do. Obviously, they'll have the pre-snap motion here and watch the linebackers when that happens. So they're going to do a hard shift over. So you can see on the last play, it was just a couple steps. These linebackers have to actually shift over quite a bit. So this play is really set up well at this point to work. But again, not everyone does their job. Lucas Patrick here, just not able to get really to the outside shoulder of that 3 technique. 3 technique in Lucas Patrick's defense does a very good job of using his length and just Lucas Patrick's just going to get in a position, but that's a very tough reach block. So that's not always going to it's hard to blame him for that, but you would like to see the one free agent offensive lineman you brought in to block that a little bit better. The good thing about Lucas Patrick on the Bears is he's obviously playing guard there. They've already said that he's going to be playing center, so it's a little bit easier, hopefully. Hopefully he's a little bit more natural there. But there were a lot of instances of Lucas Patrick being the weak link in the Packers' offensive line. So hopefully hit that move. But again, I didn't see a lot of him at center in 2020. He was playing mostly left and right guard. So hopefully that move to center mitigates some of his limitations. He was an undrafted free agent. He is a limited, and he was signed pretty cheaply. So he is a limited player. Hopefully that move to center will help him out quite a bit. All right, so the next run scheme we're looking at is outside zone weak fake jet. So we're sticking with outside zone weak. The difference here is that the Packers are going to implement a fake jet sweep into the play. It's similar to how they did the pre-snap motion on the previous plays, but those plays where they had the either running back or wide receiver running behind the play, behind the running back and quarterback. This is implementing a fake jet sweep in front of the running back and quarterback. If it's in a shotgun, or behind the quarterback if it's under center. So you can see outside zone weak, they average 5.3 yards per carry. Outside zone weak with a fake jet, they average only 4.2 yards per carry. So not as successful, but we'll go over it nonetheless. So this is the stats just for outside zone weak fake jet, 4.2 yards per carry. Again, called it mostly on first and second down. 0 attempts in the red zone out of this formation with this scheme. And over here to the right, you can see, again, similar to the outside zone, called mostly against over defenses. So again, that's a base, that's a 4-man front or an even front. The cool thing about this play is it's actually run against a 3-4 defense, so an odd front. So we can kind of see what the differences are here. So I have this play here lined up against the Titans in the snow, obviously. So you can see the Titans are lined up in their base 3-4 defense. So you have your 3 defensive linemen. your 2 edge rushers, and your 2 linebackers. So they're in their base 3-4 defense. The Packers have 2 tight ends to the strong side. Outside zone weak fake jet is obviously to the weak side, so we're running to the opposite side of there. And they're going to send this wide receiver here on a fake jet sweep, which again is going to shift everyone in this defense over a little bit and allow them to run to the weak side. So let's play that and just see what that looks like. You can see there's the fake jet sweep, and then we're going to run to the weak side. So now we can take a look at this from the other view. So again, let's let them get lined up. Pause it. Again, this is a different front than what we saw previously. We have a 1 technique nose tackle here. Normally in a base 3-4 defense, you have your nose tackle lined up right over the center, which would be a 0 technique, but in this case, he's lined up as a 1 technique. We have the 3 technique to this side of the formation, to the weak side, and then we have the 5 technique defensive end there as well. And then you have the 2 defensive ends on the outside. So what's going to happen here is, again, you got to have the fake jet sweep. That's going to move these linebackers over enough, which allows this play to work. Starting since we're running to this to the right side, we can kind of diagram what the offensive line is trying to do. Again, we're going to try to run through this B gap here on the inside hip of the right tackle. So the right tackle is going to take this defensive end, block him out of the play. The right guard is going to attempt to get to the outside shoulder of this 3 technique defensive tackle. Again, we saw on the outside zone scheme on the previous play, that's a very difficult block for guard to make. Lucas Patrick wasn't able to do that, but that is going to be his goal there. The center here is going to chip on the nose tackle and then get to the second level to block these linebackers. That's going to allow the left guard to get to the nose tackle's inside shoulder in this circumstance, and so on. So let's clear this, and we can see what that looks like. So again, they're going to send the guy in motion on the fake jet sweep. That's going to create more movement from the linebackers. And on this particular play, that right guard is not able to get to that reach block successfully, but he does sustain his block and allows an early cutback from the running back. So, ideally you want to get to that B gap, the inside hip of the tackle, or even the outside hip of the tackle, depending on how it's blocked. But if the running back sees a clear lane like that, you can always bump it up as well. So a little bit of improvisation from the running back there, but it worked out well. Got a good gain there. So next up is when outside zone weak fake jet fails. And this is an interesting, I wanted to show this play because it's a different variation on what we just saw. So on the last play, we just saw them running the fake jet to the strong side, so away from the play. This is they're actually running the fake jet to the weak side, so play side fake jet. So it kind of gets this. This isn't the reason it failed, but it gets the linebackers moving in the direction of the play, which isn't, a little bit different and a little confusing, to be honest. You'd think you'd want to get the linebackers moving to the opposite side of the play, but you can see kind of I believe it's Equimania St. Brown, current bear, sent in motion, and the linebackers shift over, although not as much. But the reason this play fails, again, unfortunately, is because of our buddy Lucas Patrick. This 3 technique defensive tackle just gets upfield way too quickly. He has no chance of getting to the outside shoulder of that 3 technique, and he just blows up the play in the backfield, and it forces a quick cutback lane. This linebacker here does not move over with the jet sweep, so he's just in a nice play to make that, and they rally to the ball. And but unfortunately, that 3 technique defensive tackle, that's who normally blows up an outside zone play just by getting that vertical push and forcing an early cutback lane instead of allowing the running back to get to the outside. So we can see kind of what that looks like. Again, watch number 62, Lucas Patrick. He just gets upfield and allows that early cutback lane, and at that point, there's nothing really that the running back can do at that point. So that 3 technique, that gap pressure from the 3 technique is usually what blows up outside zone plays. All right, next up in the outside zone scheme, we have outside zone slice. So you can see weak they ran to 5.3 yards per play, fake jet 4.2, slice 3.7, but it does allow for some big play opportunities out of slice. So if we just look at the slice stats, again, only 3.7 yards per carry, called mostly on first down. Occasionally on third, they did run it once on third and fourth down. They did run it occasionally in the red zone to not great success. But on first down, they did average 4 yards per carry, which is better than their total average. So you can see over here on the right, they did call it against bear fronts, which is typically it's where the nose tackle is lined up right over the center. So typically odd man fronts, but they also called it against over fronts, 4-man fronts, and even 6-man fronts. So let's look at this play and kind of what outside zone slice is. So this is back to week 1 against the Vikings. And you can see we have a tight end on the line of scrimmage here. He was actually brought in motion from the outside, but I skipped that part. And we're actually going to run. This is the first one we've seen under center, but I just want to point out that any of the plays that we just showed could be run under center or out of shotgun, but this is just the first one that happens to be from under center here. So they're going to run this way. So in this situation, from the look, that would be the strong side of the formation. But again, this is outside zone weak slice. So what's going to happen is this tight end, instead of running the typical outside zone scheme, is actually going to come this way and block the backside defensive end. And what this does is it puts a lot of pressure on the linebackers. So if the linebackers follow the flow of the tight end, the split flow of the tight end, they're moving this way. If they don't, they're obviously going to be going with the play. But what happens is this is a play that allows, normally, as I mentioned, in the outside zone, you want to get to the outside, but this is a play that really lends itself nicely to an early cutback, especially if, and you'll see it on this play, especially if this weak side linebacker goes with the split flow of that tight end, because this linebacker is going to go to the play slide, and that just leaves a huge hole up the middle if this weak side linebacker sticks with the tight end. And that's exactly what happens on this play. So we can see what it looks like here. So you can see that tight end come and block the weak side, the backside defensive end. You can see kind of from this angle, you can see what happens with the linebackers really well. So again, that tight end comes from outside the screen and then lines up on the line of scrimmage. Again, he's going to come back here and cut block that weak side defensive end. Otherwise, it's blocked very similarly to any of the other outside zones that we've shown. So on this particular play, you have a 1 technique nose tackle. This is the 5 technique, and then 3 technique. No, that is the 5 technique. Sorry, and then we have I believe this would be a 7 technique. But you can see how this works. Again, watch these linebackers. So the Mike linebacker, he's going to go with the play, and the weak side linebacker is going to start to go with the play, but then he's going to cut back when he sees this tight end coming across. And what that obviously is going to do is just open up the floodgates here, because there's going to be no one in the middle of the field, and Aaron Jones is going to have an easy cutback lane and a lot of room to run. Just no one in the middle of the field, because if you watch number 54, I believe that's Eric Kendricks. Watch him He's going to start to go and then pause, and that little pause there allows Aaron Jones to cut upfield, and that's what that slice does. That's what that tight end going across the formation does, and it opens up that early cutback lane. All right, so now we're going to look at when outside zone slice fails. So on this particular play, and what I noticed is there just seemed to be some confusion on who to block, especially from the wide receivers. Interestingly, I completely forgot about this, but over here on number 16, we have Teven Austin. I completely forgot that he played for the Packers, but he was a midseason signing, so a little confusion on his part on who he's supposed to block. And what this does, so we're going to, the number 49, the tight end, is going to get on the line of scrimmage, so we have the bunch formation here to the right. Again, outside zone slice, so number 49 is going to come across the formation and block the backside defensive end. And if you just watch Teven Austin and Allen Lazard, it's just a little confusion on who they're supposed to be blocking. Much more on Teven Austin than Allen Lazard. But you can see no one blocks the play side corner, and he's just able to come up, forcing the comeback, and then just rally to the ball. So just a little confusion there from Teven Austin. Again, a mid-season signing, so it's hard to blame him. I'm not familiar with the scheme, but it just goes to show that familiarity with the scheme is huge. So having Lucas Patrick, even though he's had some hiccups here that I've showed, having Equanimeous St. Brown, having their familiarity with the scheme is going to be key, because when you bring guys in off the street like that, it completely blows up the play. One block can blow up the play here, so it's good to have those guys who know how the scheme works and everything like that. So next up, we're getting away from the weak side outside zone runs, we're getting to the strong side. So next up is outside zone strong one tight end. So you can see they ran that to 4.1 yards per carry, so a little bit better than slice. We're getting back up into the the fives, which is good as we get to the strong side. So as you can see, as I mentioned before, you can run outside zone a lot of different ways. You can run it weak, you can run it strong, you can run it with one tight end, two tight end, under center, out of shotgun, two running backs, running back, fullback, lead, a lot of different ways. So we're into the outside strong one tight end. So if we look at the individual stats for that, again, called it mostly on first down, called 17 times on first down for 4.6 yards per carry. They did call this play more on third and fourth down, because they called it 4 times with 50% conversion rate on third and fourth down. They did call in the red zone as well 6 times, and they actually scored 1 touchdown off of it. If you look over here to the right, mostly called it against over, but this is actually a very good play to call against odd fronts. So they called it only 3 times against all odd fronts, but averaged 7 yards per carry. So let's take a look on how this works. So obviously this is outside zone again, so the blocking scheme from the offensive line is going to be pretty similar to what we've shown already. But you run it to the strong side, so they're going to be running it this way, and you have the one tight end on that side. Now you'll notice that there is 2 tight ends on this play, but the reason why it's outside zone strong, one tight end is because you're running it to the side with one tight end. The next one we're going to talk about is outside zone strong 2 tight end, and in that case you just have a second tight end on the strong side running that direction. So that's why it's outside strong, zone strong 1 tight end, because we're just running to the 1 tight end side. But this play is actually blocked perfectly. The running back doesn't read it right. But again, it's going to be the same thing. You can see it better from the other angle, but I just want to show something here. So we're going to let the play go a little bit. And you can see right at this point, Tyler Ervin, again, another player who was signed halfway through the year, is going to cut back up field, which I don't think he should have, because if he just continues to this outside here, you can see you have the wide receiver who's going to be blocking that guy, you have the tight end who's blocking the linebacker, you have the left tackle who's sealing there, you have the guard who's getting to the second level and is going to be blocking him. If he just keeps going to the outside here, he probably scores a touchdown. So I just wanted to show that from this angle. You can kind of see he'll cut this back upfield a little prematurely, I think. Still gets a good gain out of it, but possibly could have had more if he kept going to the outside there. All right. So this particular play, the defense is in a little bit different formation. So we don't have a 1 or 0 tech nose tackle. Instead, we have a nose tackle lined up as a 2-eye technique. So that's shading the inside shoulder of the guard. This play actually works really well against 2-eye technique nose tackles. You have the three technique here, and then you have the linebackers and everything. So this play actually works very well against this particular formation with that 2-eye technique instead of the 1 technique or the 0 technique. So again, what's going to happen here is this wide receiver, you can't see him, but he's going to go block the play side corner. The tight end here, Mercedes Lewis, is going to get to the second level. He's going to chip here, get to the second level, and block this linebacker. The left tackle is going to get all the way to the other side of this wide defensive end, which is a very difficult block. This is a 6 technique defensive end, so getting to that side is very difficult to do. But because you're running to the strong side with that tight end, he can kind of chip down and allow that left tackle to get to the other side of the outside shoulder of that guy. So we can chip down. Start over there. So chip down, get to the second level, block him, so allow him to get to the outside shoulder of that. And this combo block here from the center and left guard is very impressive as well. So because you have this 2-eye technique, it's going to be normally you just have this left guard get to the second level right away. But what he's going to do is going to crack down on this nose tackle, allow the center, who makes a great block here, to get to the outside shoulder and then get to the second level. Our friend Lucas Patrick, I've picked on him a lot today. He actually does a really nice job of using his arms to kind of keep this, getting his arms on the inside shoulder of that end, allowing the right tackle to overtake him before getting to the second level and blocking this. He actually gets to the inside shoulder, or the outside shoulder of this linebacker and blocks him this way. But you can see that this play is beautifully blocked, and if the running back actually did get to the outside, probably would have scored a touchdown. So we could play this and see what that looks like. Again, there's no pre-snap motion here. This is just, we're running to the strong side. We have more blockers than you do. And you can see just how well it's blocked. Everyone gets to their end. This guy isn't there yet, but he's going to overtake there. Mercedes Lewis is going to get the linebacker. We have our guard here who's getting that linebacker. Lucas Patrick is working the second level, getting that linebacker. But if we go, I just want to go back a little bit because I want to focus on the center and guard here, on the left guard and center, because I just think that's a really good block and really demonstrates well what you need to get from those combo blocks there. So you can see how that center gets to the outside, and the running back tower cuts it up inside a little prematurely, but it is a very nicely blocked outside zone strong lead that I wanted to use as an example here. All right, so next we're going to look at the same formation, same scheme, outside zone strong, one tight end. But what they do here is they do an RPO, and they have an RPO designed with this play, and a lot of the plays that they run in outside zone are really even inside zone and other plays have an RPO element to them as well. We haven't seen that yet, but this is a very good example of an RPO that the Bears will probably be running this year. So again, it's the same formation. We have one tight end to the strong side. The play is designed to go that way. But we also have this wide receiver here, Davante Adams, and he's going to be where the RPO goes to. So what Rodgers is seeing right now is that the Lions are lining up in a pretty clear cover 3 defense. So what that is this safety in the middle of the field is going to cover the middle of the field. This corner here is going to drop down and cover this third of the field, and this corner here is going to drop down and cover this third of the field, so cover 3. But with that, these corners are going to have to get some depth pretty early. So their first step is backwards. Rodgers clearly sees they're going to be in a cover 3 here. So what he's going to do is, instead of doing this outside zone, the offensive line is going to block like it's an outside zone. He's just going to throw a quick out, basically screen to Davante Adams, who is going to get it for a big gain because he really only needs to make one guy miss. Because with the flow, you always run these RPOs to the backside, because with this flow of the offensive line going this way and the running back going this way, these linebackers are going to be crashing down, and this cornerback is going to be, or safety, whoever this is going to be crashing down with the play side. So by running the RPO to the backside, you can get a very easy gain, and all Davante Adams has to do is just make this one guy miss, and he has a big gain. Even if he doesn't make him miss, he gets 7-8 yards. So we can see what that looks like. So again, to the backside, Davante Adams here does make him miss and gets a big gain, but even if he doesn't make him miss, that's obviously a 7-8 yard gain. We know the Bears drafted Velus Jones. That's going to be a perfect opportunity to get Velus Jones involved in the offense. Get him the ball in space. He only needs to make one man miss. If you watch my breakdown of Velus Jones, you'll see how we talked about how great he is at making things happen after the catch. That's a great way to use, and a great example of a way to use Velus Jones in this offense. So again, if you see the cover, if Justin Fields sees the cover 3, we know the Lions play a lot of cover 3, so he's obviously going to know that pre-snap. And if they come out in a formation looking like this, you don't have to audible or anything. When the play is snapped, you just turn and throw it to Velus Jones and allow his run after catch ability to make something happen. So that's something that hopefully the Bears and Luke Getsy will be bringing to the offense next year. All right, so that was outside zone strong, 1 tight end. Just for the sake of time, I don't want this to be a 2-hour podcast. I'm going to skip outside zone strong, 2 tight ends, the same thing, but instead of running the play to the 1 tight end side, you run it with 2 tight ends on that strong side. It's also very similar to outside zone strong back, which I'm going to be talking about next, so I didn't want to beat a dead horse. So outside zone strong back is what we're going to be talking about next. It's 5.4 yards per play they averaged. Strong 2 tight end, they averaged 5.3. If we look at the stats for outside zone strong back, you can see, again, mostly on first and second down. On first down, they averaged 6 yards per carry on this play, so very good there. Didn't call it on third and fourth. Did call it a few times in the red zone, but never inside the 10. They also called it against the Bear front, which again is usually a 3-4 front because it has the nose tackle lined up directly over the center. They also had success running this against odd fronts as well. So odd fronts called 3 times for an average of 10 yards per carry. So let's take a look at what outside zone strong back is. And what outside zone strong back is, what the back comes from is you're blocking one back from the offensive lineman, or blocking one back on the linebacker. So usually you'd have your right tackle here blocking that first, linebacker here. Instead, you have your tight ends to do that. So this guy is going to be blocking this linebacker. Again, this is good. The play side is going this way towards the strong side, and so on. So each offensive lineman is blocking one linebacker back, if that makes sense. But you can see they're actually going to send this wide receiver in motion, which again is going to shift these linebackers over, which also helps the offensive line block one linebacker back. The tight ends this tight end is going to get to the inside shoulder of this player and knock him out to the outside there. This tight end is going to get to this linebacker, which again creates that hole there. And so on. And otherwise, from there, it's going to be blocked just like an outside zone scheme. Now, this cornerback, the downfall of this particular scheme is that this cornerback is left unblocked. So if a team has a cornerback who's a good tackling corner, he's going to come up, fill the lane, and most likely tackle the running back. But on the flip side there, if you have a player on that side of the play who is not a strong tackling cornerback, you can really exploit that matchup and allow that running back to get in space in a one-on-one situation with a poor tackling cornerback and hopefully turn it into a big play. So let's play this and see what that looks like. So again, they're going to send the wide receiver in motion, and then they're going to flip it out to the outside. Again, there it is. That cornerback isn't able to make a one-on-one tackle, and Aaron Jones is able to get outside for a big play. So again, this is from the opposite side, but you have a 2-eye technique. Nose tackle here. You have the 3 technique. Tackle there. In this particular formation, it is a base formation, so you have the strong side or Sam linebacker, you have the middle or Mike linebacker, and then you have the weak side or Will linebacker there. So this wide receiver goes in motion on the fake jet. obviously going to take these linebackers over a little bit. This tight end is going to get to this corner. This tight end, the Y tight end, is going to get up to the second level and block the strong side linebacker, and then so on. So then this Lucas Baxter is going to get to the outside shoulder of the 3 technique there. Center is going to get up to the Mike linebacker. Left guard is going to get to the inside shoulder of the nose tackle, and so on. And again, what you're doing here is you're isolating that cornerback and forcing him to make a play, an open field tackle, which he is not able to do here. And Aaron Jones is able to get some nice yards after contact there. So that's the outside zone strong back. Again, it's the back comes from the offensive lineman blocking one linebacker back than what they would normally do on an outside zone run. All right, and the last outside zone run type is outside zone strong lead. So obviously this gets the fullback involved, so who doesn't love a good fullback? That's why they signed Kari Bosengame to be that lead blocker for David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. So you can see that in the strong lead, they didn't average a great yards per carry, only 3.8. This isn't not a lot of big plays come out of this strong lead, but it is good if you need 1 or 2 or 3 yards. It's going to be pretty consistent in getting you that. So that's how it's primarily used. If we look at outside zone lead, again, 3.8 yards per carry, called primarily on first and second down, but they did call this on third down as well, third and fourth down in the red zone. If they need to get just a couple yards, this usually is a play that can do that for them. On the right-hand side, they do run this more, not so much against, not as often, I should say, as other plays against even fronts, but against a bear front, and also against under Sam up. I'm realizing I spelled under wrong just now, but called 2 times for 8.5 yards per carry, and that's what this particular play is called against. So this is against an under Sam front. So you have the strong side linebacker, the Sam linebacker on the line of scrimmage, and under, because you have your defensive lineman shifted to the weak side, and then your strong side linebacker on the line of scrimmage on the strong side. So this play is going to go to the strong side, and you're just going to get your fullback involved. So it looks almost like a power run, except it's blocked like the linemen are playing the outside zone scheme. So let's, again, see what that looks like. Good cutback lane for Jamal Williams, and he almost scores a touchdown here. So now we can see it from the other angle. Again, we have the 1 technique, nose tackle, and then we actually have 2 3 techniques here. 3 technique on this side, and 3 technique on this side. And then here we have the Sam linebacker on the line of scrimmage. Weak side linebacker here, Mike linebacker. So from there, it's pretty similar. I've kind of talked about the outside zone scheme a lot. You probably know it at this point, but this is just a different variation of it, and a different defensive formation that they're going up against. So again, the fullback is going to be more involved in the Bears' offense than in previous years, and that is one way that it can get involved. When we get into the passing scheme next week, there's a lot of different passing schemes that I really like with the fullback involved, so probably be a little bit more exciting then. But that's how they use the fullback in the run game. So before we get to inside zone, I just want to talk a little bit more about outside zone and a variation that the Bears could run. This isn't a variation that the Packers did run in 2020 in the last couple of years, but it is something that I'm hoping and really expecting the Bears to run a lot of, because it takes advantage of Justin Fields' mobility. It's not, Aaron Rodgers is not a slow quarterback by any means, but he is 38 years old. They're not running a lot of read options, which is what I'm going to talk about here. So the outside zone read. So this is, again, not something that the Packers ran, but I fully expect the Bears to take advantage of Justin Fields' mobility and run this outside zone read. So it's just a simple diagram here. So we have the quarterback and the running back in the backfield. They're running an outside zone strong, so that's blocked. The outside zone is blocked just like I've described recently. And then the difference is here is they're leaving the defensive end unblocked. So I can draw on here as well. So this defensive end here is going to be unblocked. And what the quarterback is doing, this is pretty straightforward, but the quarterback is just reading that defensive end. If the defensive end sits kind of in his zone, in his area, reading the quarterback, then the quarterback is going to hand the ball off to the running back, and they're just going to run a straight outside zone. If the defensive end goes with the running back and crashes down, then the quarterback is going to keep it and run the ball himself. So this is obviously not something the Packers ran, but I fully expect the Bears to run some variation of a zone read, take advantage of Justin Fields' mobility. They said they want a quarterback-friendly offense. It doesn't get much more quarterback-friendly than an outside zone read. That's a pretty simple concept. So I fully expect them to run that next season and beyond. All right, so that's it for the outside zone scheme. We're going to move on now to the inside zone scheme. So while the Packers primarily ran outside zone to over 40% of the time, they did run inside zone a lot as well, 36% of the time. The thing about inside zone is that there aren't as many variations on the play as outside zone. So you can see on the right-hand side here, you have a bunch of different outside zone schemes. Inside zone, you only have 3 here. Inside zone is always run to the weak side of the formation and then has a cutback lane towards the strong side. So it's always run weak side. More double teams and longer double teams is what you'll see with inside zone. So the backside, the strong side guard and center will double team the nose tackle before the guard gets up to the second level to block the linebacker. So more combo blocks, more double teams is what you'll see with inside zone. So the first one we're going to look at is inside zone weak. Obviously, less variations, so we have a larger sample size on all of these different plays. So inside zone weak, average yards per carry, 6.2, so obviously very good there. Ran it mostly on first down, 65 calls on first down to 6.9 yards per carry, which is a real nice average. They did run it more on third and fourth down, so called 15 times, 90% success rate. They did call into the red zone a little bit more too. 24 calls inside the 10, 9 calls between the 20 and the 10, and they did score some touchdowns on there as well. What you'll notice for the inside zone is against odd man fronts, so like a bear front where the nose tackle is lined up directly over the center, it's not going to be as successful. So they called it 21 times against that formation to only 3.2 yards per carry. Was a little surprising to see. You'd think Rodgers would have audibled out of that play call if he saw that front. But if you do get them in an even front or a spread out wide front, like an over front, called 66 times with a 7 yards per carry. On a wide front, if you get them there, so that's basically having when the defense has basically 2-3 techniques and 2 defensive ends, wide 9 defensive ends, you can get a huge play against that defense. So called 7 times to 14.7 yards per carry. So obviously you're running more up the middle. You want to get the defense more spread out, whereas on the outside zone, you want to get the defense more contained to the box so you can get to the outside. So taking a look at this play here, you can see the Lions. This is against the Lions, obviously. They are in a. Oops. Come on. They are in a single high look, so they have one. Come on. There we go. So they have one safety up here at the top, and then they have one other safety down here in the box. So they're in a single high look here. So what the Packers are going to do here is they're going to bring in this wide receiver, who's actually a tight end. It's Mercedes Lewis. They're going to bring him on just a short motion, just to get him in the box to allow one extra blocker against this strong safety that's in the box. The play is going to go weak side with a cut, and then the running back is going to cut up the middle. But the play for the inside zone always goes to the weak side of the formation. So we can run this, and you can see how that works. So again, we're going to bring the guy in motion just to have someone match up against the strong safety. Now he does drop back further, but he's still closer to the line of scrimmage than the other one. So then you see the weak side with that cutback lane towards the strong side, and a good run by Jamal Williams to find the hole. A lot more vision needed. When you hear like a one-cut runner, You hear that a lot when like you're doing the NFL draft, or someone describes a running back as a one-cut runner. That's more for like an outside zone scheme where you get everyone moving horizontally and then that one cut up the field. With inside zone, you need a little bit more vision from your running backs. David Montgomery is very good at inside zone. I anticipate him being used a lot in these inside zone runs. Where Khalil Herbert has a little bit more juice, a little bit more speed, he'd probably be a better fit for that outside zone scheme. Tristan Ebner as well, probably better in the outside zone rather than inside zone. But David Montgomery should thrive running all these inside zones. And the Bears ran inside zone the last few years under Nagy as well. So Montgomery should have, and Herbert as well, should have no problem adjusting to that. But here we have, this is from the other angle. You can see a lot from this angle. So what we're going to have here, again, plays going to the weak side, and then he's going to cut back up to the middle of the field. Again, we're looking at this, actually the backside or strong side tackle and guard. They're going to double team this 3 technique before Lucas Patrick gets up to the second level to block the linebacker. So again, longer double teams, more one-on-ones as well. So the center is going to take the nose tackle. The left guard is going to take this linebacker who's up on the close to the line of scrimmage, and the left tackle is going to take this wide 9 defensive end and hopefully get him out of the play. But you're going to focus, the way that this works is you're going to focus on the tackle and the guard. Lucas Patrick here actually does a really nice job of blocking this play. So a little audible from Rodgers. He sees maybe someone's blitzing. And you can see Lucas Patrick gets to the second level. A really good cutback from Jamal Williams because he has that initial cut. Does an initial cut back and then comes back almost like that. So you can see he takes advantage of the holes created by his offensive lineman. So initial cutback and then back towards the middle. But the inside zone always goes to the weak side and then gives a cutback lane for the running back to kind of use his vision and speed to make a play. So this next example is also an inside zone weak run, but they do a very good job of disguising it. They try to make it look like an outside zone run. So what they do is instead of just handing the ball off to the running back like they did on the last play, they're actually going to pitch the ball to the running back. So it makes it look like it's going to be an outside run. It gets these linebackers running play side, and it really opens up that cutback lane for the running back. And there's always that cutback lane in inside zone scheme. That's what you're trying to hit. You run it to the weak side, but then cut back to the strong side. And the way they incorporate the pitch here really gets the defense moving one way and allows the running back to cut back the other way. So we can kind of see what that looks like just really quickly. So there's the pitch, but it's an inside zone scheme, and it just opens up a huge running lane for the running back. You can see it even better from this play, from this angle. I mean, again, I'm not going to draw, but you can see the pitch, and then just look how wide open that backside cutback lane is. And it's all because of that pitch, that disguise. So you're going to see a lot of that from Luke Getsy as well on those inside zone runs. So this next example is how inside zone can fail. So here we have MVS going in motion. He's going to get on the end of the line of scrimmage. We're going to run the ball to the weak side again with hoping for a cutback lane. Unfortunately or fortunately, if you're like me and watching the Packers and are hoping they lose, MVS is not able to get his block on this cornerback here. So you'll see he's trying to block that cornerback on the end of the line of scrimmage, and he's just able to knife through and make the play. So that is again a spot where I think Equanimeous St. Brown is going to be used a lot. He again familiar with the scheme, a good blocker, good size, over 6'5", similar size to MVS. So that's going to be where they're going to be using Equanimeous St. Brown to kind of use him as almost like a tight end, blocking on the line of scrimmage, blocking maybe some linebackers or defensive ends. But you can see this is an area where MVS was not able to execute that block. But hopefully for the Bears, Equanimeous St. Brown will be able to. So with inside zone, the Packers didn't run as many different variations as they did with outside zone, but they did run 2 different variations. They ran inside zone slice, which we talked about with that tight end coming across the line of scrimmage and blocking the backside defensive end, and they do inside zone slice with a fake jet sweep. So I'm just going to show one example of these. I'm going to show an example of inside zone slice with the fake jet, to give you an idea of how that works. So this is an example of inside zone slice fake jet against our beloved Bears. You can see the Bears are lined up in a wide front, which is not what you want against an inside zone play, but we have 2-3 techniques. Brent Urban, I believe that is, and I think that's Bilal Nichols. Both lined up as a 3 technique on the outside shoulder of the guard, and then we have 2 wide 9 defensive ends. You can see how far he's actually going to scoot even over a little bit more, but Robert Quinn's lined up as a wide 9 because they're on the outside the tight ends. That's the wide 9 format. So Khalil Mack also lined out outside the tight ends. So you can see kind of how that works to their detriment. And then so what the Packers are going to do is they're going to send a guy in motion on the fake jet sweep from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, and they're also going to pull this tight end across to block Khalil Mack on the backside, and then everyone else is going to kind of block down, and it's going to open up. They're going to start to the weak side and then open up a real nice cutback lane for Aaron Jones to gain some good yards on the Bears. So you'll see what that looks like. You can see Robert Quinn moving over a little bit more. A little confusion from Danny Trevathan and Roquan there, but the jet sweep actually does not fake out the linebackers as much as you think it would. So what that is designed to do is to get Roquan and Danny Trevathan moving over to the right, which again just opens up that cutback lane for the running back. But they'd actually stay pretty disciplined here and don't go that. But you can see there's the strong side tight end working, or the weak side tight end, working across the line of scrimmage back to block Khalil Mack, the defensive end. We have trying to get a double team on this guy, but this tackle is just going to work up to get to Roquan. And it's going to get a very nice cutback lane for Aaron Jones. A little bit of not so much effort from Khalil Mack there. I believe he was injured at this time, fighting through a foot injury. So you can see how that cutback lane really opens up with that jet sweep and with that slice of the tight end coming across the line of scrimmage. It really opens up that cutback lane and really could lead to some really big plays. Okay, so we covered outside zone, we covered inside zone. Now we're getting to the third most popular run type of the Packers in 2020, which is duo. And duo and inside zone can kind of be confused at some point. They look very similar. So that's I have a diagram here. I can show you kind of what the differences are. You can see they run 3 different types of duo. They run duo at 11 personnel, 12 personnel, and they would have what we call a duo wrap, which I'll show you what that is in a little bit. But for right now, I have this diagram here. I'm gonna just quickly use this to explain the differences between inside zone and duo. I'm also going to talk a little bit about outside zone as well. But I have my offensive linemen spread out a little bit more than you'd see on a normal play, but that's just so the diagram is a little bit easier to show you what I'm talking about. So we have, with our offensive line, we have three different gaps. We have the A gap, which is in between the center and guard. So we have an A gap on both sides. We have the B gap in between the tackle and the guard. And we have the C gap, which is outside the tackle, but inside the tight end. So we have those 3 different gaps on each side. With outside zone, you're running that either through the B gap or the C gap. Now, the outside zone might have a cutback lane through the A gap, but you're targeting the B gap or C gap. More often than not, this isn't 100%, but more often than not, if you're running to the weak side, you're attacking that B gap. If you're going to outside zone strong, you're attacking the C gap. But again, that's not 100%. With inside zone, as I mentioned, you always run inside zone to the weak side. You're attacking the inside A gap. So these two would be outside zone. This would be inside zone. We're attacking this weak side A gap with outside zone or inside zone. With duo, you're always running duo to the strong side. So inside zone is weak side, duo is strong side. But with duo, you're still attacking that A gap, but you're just doing that on the strong side. So again, outside zone, B or C gap, inside zone, weak side A gap, duo, strong side A gap. Now with inside zone and duo, there are cutback options. So as I mentioned on the inside zone, you start at weak side, but it always cuts back to the strong side. So from here, start running it, and then you have the cutback lane to the strong side of the formation or towards the tight end. With duo, it's exactly the same, but instead of cutting back to the weak side, you're always cutting back towards the tight end, so towards the strong side. So both have a cutback option, both are towards the strong side. It's just where the direction of the play starts that differentiates them. So inside zone again to the weak side, duo to the strong side. And then now I'm going to pull up a play to show you what duo looks like. Okay, so here we have a very good example of the Packers running duo. The Bears, this is obviously against the Bears, they come out in, ironically, what we call a bear front. So we have the nose tackle as a zero technique lined up directly over the center, and then we have 2-3 techniques on this play. So 3 technique over the outside shoulder of the guard. So this is a 3 technique defensive tackle, and this is also a 3 technique defensive tackle. Interestingly, that the Bears decide to still keep their defensive ends or outside linebackers in a wide 9 format, so they are outside the tight end pretty substantially. So there's a lot of room in between the 3 technique and that defensive end. The Packers are going to put Equanimeous St. Brown in motion, and they're just going to bring him over here. Oops, he's actually going to be in this gap to bring another guy to the strong side of the formation. And again, with duo, they're trying to attack, or the target point is this A gap of the Bears. So in between the left guard and the center. So it's specifically the strong side A gap because you have the tight end to this side. This would be the strong side A gap. If this were an inside zone play, they'd be running it towards the weak side A gap. So as the running back gets up to this A gap, he is reading the middle linebacker, Roquan Smith. So I'm actually going to play this just a little bit because once they set it in motion, Roquan Smith is going to move over a little bit. So this will help me diagram this a little bit. So again, Roquan Smith is standing right in this A gap, the A gap that they want that they're targeting with this run. So the running back job is to read Roquan Smith or the Mike linebacker, who, if it's not against the Bears, he's reading the Mike linebacker. If the Mike linebacker shoots play side and gets out of his gap, then the running back wants to stay in this A gap and just push upfield. If the Mike linebacker stays disciplined in this A gap, that is when that cutback lane towards the tight end, towards the strong side of the formation comes into play. So again, the key for the running back is this middle linebacker. On this particular play, Roquan Smith stays in his A gap, stays pretty disciplined. We're going to have a double team from the left tackle and the left guard on the play side, strong side, 3 technique. So they're going to double team him before the left tackle gets up to block Roquan. And because of that, you're just going to see a slight cut back towards the tight end, not bouncing it to the outside. And that's what you're going to see most of the time with duo. It's not so much bouncing it to the outside. It's more just hitting the B gap instead of the A gap. So we can play this from here and you'll see what I'm talking about. Watch Roquan Smith, 58, the Mike linebacker, and watch the left guard and left tackle. See how they double team that 3 technique before moving on to the Mike linebacker. And you can see Jamal Williams starts in the A gap and just bounces it a little bit towards the B gap. It was obviously a very big hole. It was very well blocked. The Bears weren't really in a good formation against this, again, because of the front that they're in with their with their defensive linemen all inside the play, and then that big gap in between for the end. So there was no need for Jamal Williams to really bounce that too much. They just had a huge running lane here. So it was kind of a weird formation from the Bears. Hopefully that's cleaned up with the new defense. So next up we have duo wrap. So I showed you duo out of 11 personnel in the last one. I'm going to skip 12 personnel because it's the same as 11, just different formation. But duo wrap is a little wrinkle they add to it from time to time. I forgot to show the duo 11 stats on the last one, but you could see duo out of 11 personnel. The Bears in that previous video were in their bear formation. You can see that duo is very successful against that formation. They run it more often against over, but when they do get a bear front, they like to run that against that to take advantage of those that space in between the ends and the D tackles. With duo wrap, they don't run it as often, but it still works against the bear front and the over front. But it does add an extra twist to the play. So with this particular play, it's again against the Bears. Unfortunately, there's a lot of good plays against the Bears. But with duo wrap, the difference is what they're doing here is they're sending Davante Adams in motion on a fake jet. And then they're going to run to the strong side A-gap, just like they would for duo. The difference with the duo wrap is a couple things. One, the running back is going to fake. It's almost like a counter, so he's going to fake to the inside, the weak side, before cutting back to the strong side to get the handoff. And the other thing they're going to do is they're going to have Equanimeous St. Brown here, who's going to come over and block the strong safety. So as the strong safety comes up, it's his responsibility to block that strong safety. So we can play this, clear that. You can see that. Otherwise, the blocking is the same on the duo from the offensive line. You're going to see those double teams and then work those combo blocks and then working up to the second level. But you can see there's the motion. There's Equanimeous St. Brown, who's responsible for the strong safety, and unfortunately just very poor tackling from the Bears allows that to get into the end zone. So again, the Bears are in their bear front that they were in before. You got the 0 technique nose tackle and then 2-3 techniques. And then you have the wide 9 defensive ends or outside linebackers in this case. So again, Jamal Williams is going to just do a little counter footwork just for some additional misdirection before going up towards the A-gap. There's no need. Again, he has that option of bouncing it to the outside. He's still reading Roquan Smith, seeing what he does. If he stays in the A-gap, then he'll bounce it outside. If he goes to the outside, he'll stay in the A-gap. You're going to have Davante Adams coming over here on the fake jet sweep to the play side, and they can run these in different ways. Sometimes they do the fake jet sweep to the play side. Sometimes they do the fake jet sweep to the backside, and I have another example of that as well. So they're going to send him in motion, and then 19 Equanimeous St. Brown, current Bear, is going to kind of like the slice formation or scheme that we showed you earlier in the inside zone and outside zone. He's going to, when the ball is snapped, come across the formation, and instead of blocking the weak side defensive end like they did in slice, his responsibility is the strong safety. So we can play this from here. There goes Davante Adams on the fake jet. You can see that Roquan actually attacked the A gap there. He actually attacked it very hard, but he got blown up by the guard and just completely taken out of the play. And from there, it's an easy money for Jamal Williams for the touchdown. So this is another example of dual wrap, and I wanted to show two here because, as I mentioned, you can do the jet sweep in both directions. So the last one was a play side jet sweep. This is going to be a backside jet sweep. So you have MVS down here. He's going to go on this. He's going to go on the jet sweep to the right, but the play is actually going to go towards the strong side. Again, strong side A gap. He's going to put in that little counter footwork just to sell that a little bit more. We're still going to have that slice. So the wide receiver here who's lined up on basically as a tight end, this would be like Equanimeous St. Brown's role. He's going to come across the formation, and his responsibility is picking up that strong safety. So this is an example of how you're supposed to defend the duo wrap, and it pains me to say that the Lions did a much better job at this than the Bears did, unfortunately. But you can see they're going to send MVS in motion. You have the counter footwork from the running back, and you have in this case Allen Lazard coming across the formation to block the strong safety. Now what the strong safety does is what you're supposed to do is he attacks downhill and gets to the pulling wide receiver in the backfield instead of letting the pulling wide receiver come to him and get an easy block. He attacks it in the backfield and kind of blows up the play, doesn't let him bounce it to the outside, and the linebackers and defensive linemen can clean up the mess. So let's take a look at that from the other angle. Again, the running back is reading the linebacker, the Mike linebacker. If he goes strong to the play side, he's going to stick in the A-gap. If he stays in the A-gap, then he's going to bounce it to the strong side, towards the strong side tight end. But for the Lions here, they play it so well, there's not really an option he has to cut it back. He has no option but to cut it back towards the inside where there are a bunch of players. If that strong safety doesn't make that play, you'll see that there would have been a lot of room to run to bounce this out like he wants to do, because the middle linebacker, let me go back, because the middle linebacker, if we watch him, he bites hard into the A-gap instead of going to the play side. So what the running back wants to do is bounce this out towards the tight end. Unfortunately, because that safety makes such a nice play in the backfield, it forces him to stay in that A-gap. And because the linebacker bit hard on the A-gap, there's just no room to run there. So that's how you're supposed to defend the duo wrap. The Lions did a good job here. The Bears obviously did not. And that was the story of the 2020 season, I feel like, for the Bears. So the Packers are primarily a zone team, outside zone 40% of the time, inside zone 36% of the time. But they did run some power as well, and the Bears will be running power from time to time here. It was less than 5% of the time, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. But they did run some power runs as well. Power runs, it's easy to identify a power run because you're going to have you're going to run to the strong side and you're going to have a pulling guard. So this could be where some of that confusion came from, where people saying, there's pulling guards in an outside zone scheme. In a zone scheme, there are never any pulling guards, but every team is going to run some variation of power, no matter how many outside zone runs or inside zone runs they run. So on this particular one, we have Lucas Patrick playing right guard. He's going to pull into this B gap and take care of the linebacker. Otherwise, it's just a power man scheme, so each guy is just going to take the guy in front of them. Basically, it's important to have a tight end who can block if you're going to run this power. So this is where Kmet is going to come into play. The backers usually had Mercedes Lewis on the field when they ran power because he is one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. Hopefully Kmet can continue to improve as a blocker, because he's going to be one-on-one on the defensive end. And you have to have a strong blocking tight end in order to run this successfully. So again, it's pretty straightforward as a power scheme. You are going to see Lucas Patrick pulling. And this is always run to the strong side. So he does get to the linebacker there and does make a good block. So Lucas Patrick has experience there, but he isn't the greatest puller, as you'll see in this next play. So this next play is also a power run, and it's going to be pretty much the same thing. They do disguise it a little bit. I wouldn't not say disguise it, but they do put a little wrinkle with a fake jet sweep coming across. But that's to the play side, so that just gets the linebackers pretty much more ready for the play. But we are going to have Lucas Patrick pulling again, and he just kind of doesn't know who to block on this play. Otherwise, the rest of the play is blocked pretty well. We do have two tight ends here. On the last one, we had one tight end, but we have two tight ends here. But if you watch Patrick, you'll see he does not do a very good job of blocking on this play. So here comes the jet sweep, and then Lucas Patrick just couldn't decide which linebacker to block. Probably didn't matter because there were two linebackers in the hole, but not a great look from Lucas Patrick there, the Bears' only free agent acquisition on the offensive line. So the last way the Packers run the ball is through jet sweep. So in all of these different outside zone, inside zone, duo, power, you've seen fake jet sweeps come across. Well, obviously, in order for those fake jet sweeps to work, they have to eventually run some actual jet sweeps. So nothing too groundbreaking here. This is going to be an outside zone weak run. So they're going to bring the running back or wide receiver on the jet sweep this way. Otherwise, this is just blocked like an outside zone. You'll see all the offensive linemen moving laterally to the right, to the weak side. The running back's going to go there, but they're just going to turn around and hand the ball to the running back on the jet sweep. So let's play that. It's pretty straightforward. You can see there's the... So the tight end here, he actually doesn't block like... I don't like this. So the last way the Packers run the ball is on the jet sweep. So on all of these different runs, outside zone, inside zone, duo, power, you've seen them fake the jet sweep either to the play side or to the back side. So obviously in order for those fakes to work, they have to eventually run a jet sweep to get that on tape to confuse teams. So this is an example of the jet sweeps that they run. You'll see they have the running back at the top of the screen here. He's a wide receiver. Well, it's a wide receiver / running back. He's going to come around here on the jet sweep. This is one way that you would utilize Velus Jones in his run after catchability or just ability with the ball in his hands to make people miss and make plays. So he's going to run the jet sweep. They're actually going to give it to him this time. The offensive line is going to block this just like an outside zone. So they're going to be running an outside zone weak. So the running back's going to be going to the weak side, but they're just going to turn around and hand it off to Tyler Ervin, the running back / wide receiver, who's coming across the formation. The tight end here is going to chip this defensive end, but he's not going to sustain the block on that defensive end. He's just going to get in the way and delay him a little bit before getting to the outside. Obviously, the wide receiver here is going to block the corner, and they're going to get him to the outside and allow him to use his speed to get to the outside and get a big play. Now, this corner here does not play this well. What he should be doing is sticking to the outside and forcing a cutback on the inside so the linebackers can get to him. Instead, he comes inside and allows the running back, Tyler Ervin, to get the edge. So let's see what that looks like. So again, watch the tight end on the strong side of the formation, chipping the defensive end, but not really sustaining that block and just letting the speed of the wide receiver take over. So if that's Velus Jones, no defensive end is going to be able to get to him. You just got to get enough of him to get in the way, and I'm talking about this defensive end, and just let the speed of the player with the ball in his hands take over. So that's another way that they can use Velus Jones. They should be using Velus Jones like that. Darnell Mooney would also be a candidate to do this. Pretty much most of the wide receivers, Pringle and Equanimeous St. Brown, are going to be more of your blocking wide receivers. So they might not be involved in that. But Mooney, Velus Jones, Treston Ebner, the Packers used Tyler Ervin, who is like a running back / wide receiver. That's how I anticipate them using Treston Ebner as well. And with that tight end blocking, that's going to be Cole Kmet. Have him chip that defensive end. He's big enough to do that before getting outside. So the Bears clearly have the players they want to run this. It's just a matter of taking advantage of everyone's talents. All right, so that's it on Luke Getsy's run scheme that he's going to be bringing over from the Packers. I hope everyone learned something. I know by going through this book and watching the All-22, I definitely learned some things about what we'll be running next year. Next week, I'm going to be doing a podcast on the pass scheme, so I'm really excited about that one. That's a little bit more in-depth, a little bit not as straightforward. So hopefully you'll learn something about that too, so keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, if you like what you saw, please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Follow the CFC account on Twitter. I also, on the website, ChicagoFootballConnection.com, you can sign up for create an account, and you can post on the forum. I've also had some people reach out to me to write some articles, and I'm happy to post anyone's article that wants to be featured as a guest writer. So if you do want to write for CFC, I would love to have you. Just send me a direct message on Twitter, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and bear down.